Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? So there is a group called Mgtow, which is men going their own way, which is really, in my estimation, kind of like a reaction to a lot of the feminist propaganda that's going on today, and has been going on since the 60s, I would say, right, with second wave feminism and so on. So there is a YouTube video that we kind of stumbled across with, conveniently enough, an introduction to Mgtow. So he's telling us what this Mgtow is. And what we wanted to do as Sunni Muslim men is kind of look at this video and react to it.
Exactly. So we're going to see the extreme side opposite the feminism.
Hi everyone, Sandman here. I'm getting a number of people asking me to do an introduction video for Mgtow, so here it is. I'm going to cover 25 of the most important video topics that I've covered since I've started my channel. And the first thing to remember about Mgtow is that a man that has taken the metaphorical red pill is a man that has learned the ugly truth about female nature. Women are made out to be harmless, beautiful creatures, but the truth is many women today will rip out your heart and testicles through your wallet and move on to their next victim with absolutely no second thought.
So what do you think of this, Ali? First of all, we're kind of getting a flavor of...
It's you know, he started off good when he was saying, you know, women are seen as harmless, beautiful. And I was like, yeah, you know, some can be seen as harmless. Most of them, you know, yeah, maybe beautiful, depends on the one that's looking, or maybe to lower their gaze.
They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Behold, yeah, I was going to say that, but I didn't know how to rephrase it. But alhamdulillah, we've got you here. So now then it goes a bit south, you know, and he starts going into about, you know, what did he say? He said, like, you know, they want to rip you from a different part of your body.
Yeah, take your wallet and so on.
Financially. So I can see a bit of extremism in there. I can see a bit of like, okay, all right, are they really as you say?
It's hasty generalization, I would say.
It does seem like that. Let's just be just.
And a bit reactionary. And to be honest, this is like the men's right movement. A lot of it has been very balanced. A lot of it, like for example, Warren Farrell, he's written many books which I would recommend. Like, not to say that I agree with everything in those books, but if you've been challenged with second wave feminism, books like The Myth of Male Power, books like The Liberated Man, books like recently he's written a book called The Boy Crisis. Books like this would actually give you another perspective, honestly. On I'm not saying once again I agree with everything, but it will give you another perspective.
And also watching that documentary, The Red Pill.
The Red Pill, it's a fantastic. It will give you another perspective, okay? Because critically, what Warren Farrell does is he redefines power. What power is, and power is the ability, he says, for a man to take control of his own life, or a woman, right? And he says that basically his main argument, thrust of his main argument, but obviously you need to see his evidencing in his books, is that if power is defined as the ability for a man or a woman to take power of their own life, there's many things that men do which show powerlessness. For example, being forced to go into the army, going forced to financially provide, being or expected at least to do so, you know, and many other examples that he gives, like dangerous jobs, many examples that he gives. And he also references the increase of suicide for men, etc. And it's more of a sober tone. And I think really this conversation needs to be, there needs to be an air of sobriety. It cannot be like reactionary or emotional. And he does speak in a very...
Maybe he'll change his tone as we watch it.
Maybe he might. You're right, but what needs to happen with these issues, I believe, is that opinions are great, they're very good, but in order for us to really make good cases on either side, whether you're talking about women's rights or women's rights, it needs to be academically referenced. Otherwise, it will not be respected. And I think that's an important thing.
So let's see if he will take it a notch down or a notch up.
Or remorse in the process. So taking the red pill is making yourself aware of how women operate, and you stop being naive about it. With regards to becoming a Mgtow, there are 4 or 5 different levels to Mgtow. The first level is the purple pill man. This is the man that's aware that women use the government, the courts, and men's desires to reproduce to take advantage of men. But the purple pill man believes that the risks of a relationship and marriage are often worth the potential punishment. A level 2 Mgtow believes in dating and short-term relationships, but not marriage, long-term relationships, or cohabitation with women. To him, these often seem very dangerous. A level 3 Mgtow doesn't believe in dating women at all, and limits his interactions with women as much as possible. A level 4 Mgtow tries to limit his interaction.
Yeah, now what do you think of this, bro?
I don't know. He's broken it down to levels. So to me, it does seem like, look, he might have some valid points, but to me, it's as good as listening to a super extreme radical feminist who's been abused by men so much that she's decided to become a lesbian. And to that level where she just got so much hate. It's just another part of the spectrum, another angle where I feel as if this man has been really hurt, been used, mistreated, and his emotions and how he's feeling could be correct. But to generalize that again, because I thought he was going to take it a bit notch down, but he's actually now breaking the levels down. So I think,
no, but he's even giving you advice like what you should do.
Yes,
but
exactly.
his prescription doesn't seem to be.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't. Obviously, this is an introduction video. Maybe he's done so in other place. But his prescription of limiting his interaction with women as much as possible, for me, I don't see.
What does that mean by limiting that? Is he saying he doesn't want any kind of intimacy, or is what's he talking about here?
Like, quite frankly, it seems like a cowardly approach. Like, sorry to say, if you think this is being an alpha male, and this is the kind of language they use, alpha and beta male, and all that. But being an alpha male or being a real man, or if you want to call it that, whatever you want to say, is not trying to avoid women and run away from the state or from the government, as he goes on to say. It's not this. It's actually facing all those things. And seriously, facing them and cooperating with them as much as possible. And there are times where conflict is required and sometimes when negotiation is required. And the real man knows, a real woman knows when to do either of those things.
Exactly.
He's more easily manipulated. A man aware of how women function in society and manipulate men in covert ways are harder to guilt and shame into doing the things that she wants. He knows the game, so he's harder to trick into marriage, protection, and resource extraction. Shame is the name of many women's game, and in this case, it doesn't work. After a woman convinces her beta male blue pill man that marriage is a good idea for him, then she has a child or two which at some point allow her to leave that relationship and use those children as a way to get child support from her husband. People wonder why men go their own way, and one of the biggest reasons is that they have been burned by women through the divorce courts and are often paying lifetime alimony as well as child support to their ex-wives. In many cases, the family courts also award the full value of the family home to wives. And the majority of men visiting this YouTube channel are often in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. Men that have been taken to the cleaners, so to speak, and have had their eyes opened a little too late.
Interesting. Look, okay, that's an interesting point, and there's truths to that. Yeah? So even though if it's coming from a radical feminist or meninist or whatever you want to call it, it's a reality. Yeah, a lot of men are really, really trying their best to abstain from getting married. Yeah, firstly, they're doing everything that you do in a marriage anyways. Yeah, that's point number one. But number two, there's too many risks. Yeah, okay, and they're getting married, and then when things go sour, you have risks of not seeing your kids. The state just takes the woman's side, and there's a lot of other factors. So can you blame men to not want to get married? No, I'm serious. He's speaking a truth there that men are afraid. Yes, women are using their powers that are given to them by authorities and other means to abuse men, so much so that some men are suicidal. Some men that kill themselves because they do not, they're not even allowed to see their own kids.
And the documentary Red Pill actually outlines that stuff really well. In terms of, I think you have to pay if you want to watch it, but it's worth the money.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Definitely, yeah. So I definitely agree. That's the
there
reality.
are things there which are real concerns.
Yes, exactly.
They are here to become Mgtows because they are shocked at the way women took advantage of them. As well, they're here to understand how women use their beauty and behavior to trick men. Another important thing to remember is that women age like milk, while men age like wine. And I'm putting a link to a video called Women in the Wall down below. Many women's looks and ability to attract a wealthy, attractive mate decline rapidly as they hit the age of 30. Men's attractiveness often increases with age because they tend to make more money as they age, and often...
That's a fact. Yeah? The fact that when a woman... No. Let's be real. That's a fact. When a woman reaches the age of 30 alarm bells do go off. For a man, that's not the case. Even reproducing, for example, a man... Bro, I heard stories of 70, 80-year-old men that are producing like his happy days, brother. So it is a fact. And
have larger bank accounts and savings. While generally women's earnings potential withers with their looks, especially if they've had children. The age of 30 is roughly where male and female values intersect and then go in the opposite direction. If a man doesn't get married by the age of 35 or 40, then there's only roughly a 12% chance that he's going to get married from that point forward. Another reason men should go their own way is because of shit tests. Women often test men's ability to be providers and tolerate their horrible behavior. The idea is to turn a man into an obedient, broken shell of his former self that walks around saying, "Yes, dear," all of the time. His spirit has to be broken in many cases so his resources become more easily extracted and he is more malleable. he becomes silly putty in her hands. A woman asking a man to do something over the top is not her being loving or showing love, but instead she's testing him to see if he can be manipulated. And the ironic thing is that women want to manipulate men, but when the manipulation works, they tend to lose interest. With regards to love, there are often questions as to whether...
So, about this point, he keeps talking about resource extraction, right? And once again, I think he's operating... I think this is ironic, right? Because he's operating on a feminist paradigm.
Okay.
I'll tell you why I say that. Because the question of, okay, should there be... It's a question of, is it complementarity or equality? Is it in a complementarian system or an egalitarian system? If you believe it should be an egalitarian system, then financially, right, both man and woman, husband and wife, should be splitting the bills. Right?
Okay, can you just define those definitions?
Right, so when I say equality, I'm talking about complete equality. Right?
Okay.
So there's no differentiating factor.
Okay.
I mean, Ngozi, for example, famous feminist, recently wrote the Feminist Manifesto. She says everything should be equal, absolutely equal, except for breastfeeding, for example, right? For women, that's something which she
Why does the exception stop there?
Yeah, right. That's the point. So we don't accept the premise. We don't accept the premise that different things should be treated the same in all aspects.
Okay.
And because we don't accept the premise, we say that there are things that men have to do, responsibilities, duties and responsibilities, which women don't.
Which is called, what was that?
So for example, in this case, he keeps referring to it as resource extraction, okay? We don't accept the premise that it's resource extraction and manipulation. We say that having a reciprocal relationship with a woman where she will, if it's a familial structure, she will have to undergo a series of difficulties, especially if we consider that she goes through pregnancy and birth and breastfeeding, that it's not seen from the Islamic paradigm as exploitative or manipulative if we then reimburse women for these things.
Exactly, and Allah says in the Quran very clearly, like for example, if you divorce your wife and she's given birth, there are certain legislation Allah's put in place.
Yeah, he has to provide money for breastfeeding because it's a service.
Yes.
At the end of the
and
day,
only that, if even if she's like divorced, she has to stay at the house until that period. If I'm not mistaken, in the Quran, Allah says
for 3 months.
For 3 months, yeah. So it's again, it just
but what he was talking about before is the other extreme, which is the Western extreme. Yeah. Because the Western extreme says, even in the UK, this might be the case, but certainly in the US, it's more the case that if a man marries a woman. And he's got X amount of money in the bank account and they get a divorce, she's going to get a huge cut of how much he makes or whatever that is. And they justify that on the grounds that she was servicing him. Like, okay, fair enough. There should be some kind of compensation. But the amount here is as if she was doing the work that he was doing. It's completely unjustifiable.
Do you see how is one extreme?
Yeah.
You get another feminist.
But the point is, we don't refer to this stuff as resource extraction or manipulation. Men should be proud to spend money on their families.
Yes.
And actually, Islam defines manhood, in a sense, as a man's ability, to protect, to maintain, and to spend on his entire family. Provide. And that's what the Quran says, الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم. You know, that men are the maintainers and protectors of women because of what Allah has given men that he hasn't given women, and because of what they spend on them.
Isn't that beautiful, man? Like, can you think about it? This whole thing of experiment, I just see this whole feminism and what this guy's on as some kind of an experiment that they've gone through, and Allah's given us the solution in the Quran. And they've just gone round in circles.
And it's all reaction. It's action reaction.
And they've come back to the asl, which is what Allah's mentioned in the Quran.
Right. It's all action reaction, like you said, bro. Action. Second wave feminism. Oh, we feel exploited because we're working in the home and we want to do work. You come outside, bro. Nowadays, James Tooley. I was just looking at some of his work. Right. He's from Newcastle University. He's done work, he's written a book called The Miseducated Woman or something like this, right? And he's also done work on second wave feminism and its effects. And what he's been able to show is that 30% of women, 30% of women are unhappy because of the career options that they've had or that they've prioritized careers over and above family.
Yes.
And so the second wave feministic framework has failed, and that's why only 8%, I think, of German people, according to YouGov, and even less in other European countries, now identify with feminism in the first place.
Wow.
because they've tasted its fruits and they're rotten fruits.
100%.
But on the other hand, it's not going to just be action reaction. We need to bring some kind of complementarity into the equation here, and some reciprocity, which we'll talk about hopefully when we get the chance to.
Children and need to divert those resources elsewhere. Anyways, Mgtow men want North America and Europe to turn into Japan. We want men refusing to provide love and resources to women on a civilization-wide scale until society crumbles. Women are selfish, yet men are told to man up and take responsibility. And we don't want to take responsibility for childlike women that have given up on their own responsibilities, but continue to demand that we men provide them entitlements because they have a golden vagina. When a man tries to live for himself, women call it a midlife crisis and try to shame him back into submission. Yet when a woman goes through menopause, men are supposed to just tolerate her hot flashes, as well as mood swings, but a man in a midlife crisis needs therapy according to women. The guy we
There is some truth in that. I mean, at the end of the day, most feminists agree that there are physiological differences between men and women, and most of them would accept the fact that there are behavioral changes when menses happens. So if this brings us to the point, equality is not identicality. We don't believe that we're the same, and there are things that men are going to have to tolerate from women that the vice versa isn't the case.
Exactly. And then what happens is this fits into the whole paradigm of men committing more suicide, because as a woman you're telling me I'm going through menopause, understand me, yes, I'm lashing out on you and going in a mad one every now and then, but I'm going through menopause. Okay, but when a man is going through a midlife crisis, you're told to shut up. Now when you're told to shut up as a man, not directly or indirectly, because one of the reasons why a lot of men commit suicide is because women tend to express themselves more. They can cry about it. They can just let it out. As a man, you have to man up. You don't be weak. You don't cry. And now when you're faced with a woman kind of expressing her feelings and then belittling you when you're going through, like, let's say, a midlife crisis, that adds on to somebody being prone to commit suicide.
I think that is one of the things. I mean, most studies, when they talk about men committing suicide more, is because society shames men. For being able to come out and speak about their emotions in the same way that women are actually more courageous in being able to do so anyway.
Exactly, and you're suppressing them further with this. That's true.
So these are some interesting points that he's making.
Buying them a nice home and furnishing it, as well as spoiling them rotten like princesses. Yet many of the women they tend to rescue are used butts that have been riding the cock carousel for most of their lives. And many women prefer to date bad boys and jerks instead of good, loving, supportive, and good-hearted men. Many men can't even get dates or relationships these days because they seem to be unattractive to women, and women have no interest in dating them and having sex with them. But it's much harder for unattractive men than it is for unattractive women. And men that are incapable of getting dates and getting into relationships are often called TFLers, or true forced loners.
What do you think, bro?
That's true. For an attractive man, that's subjective anyways, and for an attractive woman, even an unattractive woman, like, you know, back in the days with friends, some friends would look at a girl and they'd be like, okay, she's not that pretty there, but, you know, her body or whatever it may be is, so an attractive woman still has some kind of a demand, shall I say, but as an attractive man, that's not the case. What was I was going to say something else.
It's an interesting point, because I think a lot of people don't realize the chivalry effect. And a chivalry effect is not just something that happens in the courtroom or in the legal system. There is a societal chivalry effect.
Yeah. The thing is also, like, for example, when they say, for example, women want bad guys. Good guy and bad guy, what's that mean? A lot of people go to extremes, in that context where they think, and a man go to, like, for example, a man is good, is his first relationship, whatever, which you shouldn't have anyways for the get-go. This is why it's haram, But what happens is that woman uses you or leaves you for a bad boy, In your head, you're being told now you have to be the bad guy. Now, the bad guy that's been registered in your head, you know, is somebody that's going to be violent or this, that. There was a brother that I was listening to on TikTok, I disagreed with him. I agree with some points. But he's making it seem as if you have to be bad and evil to your wife to be. That's not correct, Aki. Let me tell you something, Psychologically, let me tell you something. If I'm a pushover, if I don't have a backbone and my friends, forget relationship, friends, colleagues, works, you name it, brother, sister, whoever it may be, if I'm a pushover, anyone, this is human psychology. If you're too good to someone, I'm not even going to use the word good. If you're just too lenient with someone, they're bound to trample on you. You've got no seriousness left. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's human psychology. It doesn't apply to women or men. It applies cross board. Now, to take that on board and run with it and make it seem as if, no, you have to be the bad guy or you have to treat her harsh, I don't think this is correct,
Bro, it's definitely not correct.
It's not correct. You can treat your wife good, but and vice versa. There has to be discipline in all areas. Okay, if you're a pushover woman, or a pushover man, the same thing will apply to you. So I think it's unfair where a lot of people use this and make it seem as if, I have to become the bad boy alpha male and be hard. And I don't think that's right, bro. As long as you have principles in place and discipline, like don't cross that line, works both ways.
Bro, and don't forget Islam. Like for a lot of these Mgtow brothers that are men that are watching this right now, Islam has the answer to your questions, bro, because it's institutionalized hierarchization. Like for instance, we're not afraid to say that men as husbands, there's a degree of authority in certain aspects, and going into a relationship, Muslim women know that. They know that, for example, if there's a deadlock and there's not a decision to be made, then the man's going to make a decision on that. So we are not the Islamic paradigm. The Islamic paradigm grants to men something which will satisfy their nature and stop men from being resentful to women because their nature is suppressed. And this is a great injustice of the feminist movement, that it's not allowed men to express themselves in the way that they ought to or need to or feel that they have to in order to really express what it is that is different from them, from women, which differentiates them from. So for us, we do have a hierarchy within the house. We do have a hierarchy. There is a man, there is the kids, there's the wife, and there is a chain of command at the end of the day, and the man is the man of the house. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Kullu ra'in mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi." Every shepherd is responsible for their flock, and a man is responsible for his flock, and his wife is responsible for the family, and so on. So there is a clear hierarchy that is known in the religion by necessity, and this allows a man to not feel always undermined, because he comes up with a lot of examples where really what he's talking about is a manipulated man. What is he talking about? A man that doesn't have
a backbone.
A backbone, put it that way.
Yeah, and the thing is, look, it's not just religion. This is a fitri matter,
predisposition.
It's a matter of the fitra. Just as you affirm the oneness of God, this is something Allah has legislated for mankind. The one who's created Apple knows how Apple works. If you try to experiment, you're going to come back to square one, the factory settings, which is the asl. And if you go and experiment, which these people are, no, let's try this, let's try that, it's nothing but
action
chaos.
Reaction, bro.
It's nothing but chaos. And what we learn from this video is how important it is, for example, to have a divine legislation telling us how to abide and live by.
Bro,
and if you don't, what are you going to do? Let me tell you something. Let's experiment. Oh, exploded, didn't work. I hurt my head. You're going to carry on hurting yourself. And we're seeing society crumbling. The marriage, there's an outright war on the family unit, and you name it. And that's why you're going to have more extreme individuals like him. Can you imagine men? Can you imagine a naive man, young boy listening to this, who's been hurt by society, and he's like, you know what? Yeah, this woman, you're radicalizing the guy. Can you imagine him getting into a relationship?
Bro.
He's going to see this woman as nothing but an object, not even sexual object. He's going to say, this woman is trying to suck my blood.
It's like what Stephen Covey says, in his 7 rules for highly effective people. Is one of his rules is think win-win. And I think the key word here is reciprocity. If you always think it's a zero-sum game, which in economic terms means it's either me or you who's going to win here. And basically the presentation of this man here is that this thing is this gender interaction is a zero-sum game. It's the same discourse exactly as we find in second wave movements, feminist movements, which is that men are biologically oppressive by nature, the family is institutionally oppressive. There's a patriarchy, which is basically this term. They say they're not discriminatory towards men, but there is a whole term with the word patriarchy, where the word patri literally means that which relates to the father or the man, right? So you're telling us, feminists are basically saying this, that the name of your movement is named after being a woman, feminism, and then the name of the oppressive force is named after manhood, which is patriarchy. So you've got this dualism, you've got this dichotomy that's created, this dualism where men are the bad guys and women are the good guys. And this guy is doing nothing but the opposite. Women now have become the antagonists and men have become the protagonists, and we need to kind of avenge kind of the historical injustice by secluding ourselves from women, which is a cowardly approach. It is a cowardly approach, and it's an ineffective approach. It's an inefficient approach. The complementarity model that Islam has to offer, once again, like you've just mentioned, it does not say that men and women are the same. It acknowledges the differences between men and women. It acknowledges the psychological and the biological and the physiological differences, and it makes special arrangements for those. All right. So a man doesn't feel like him expressing himself is going to compromise a woman expressing herself, and a woman doesn't have to feel like her expressing herself is going to compromise the man.
A traditional marriage and family is a great risk for men in this day and age. If a man wants a child of his own, I would suggest that he go to either Mexico or Thailand and have a surrogate mother give birth to his own child. That way his child can never be taken away by the mother, and he often pays $30,000 to $40,000 to have his own child free.
Do you see the extremes he's gone through?
Yeah.
He's literally telling you to travel to another country and get a surrogate mother. Can you imagine the extremes? That this is very worrying.
Yeah.
You know what this guy is either his kids have been taken away from him, that
something's happened.
he's going to extreme
Bro,
levels.
remember when we went to California? Let me tell you
Yeah.
something, yeah? But we went to California. We're not going to mention what state or what happened, but we went to California and a brother was telling us. Remember this?
I remember. Look, you just said it. I know
bro,
what you're talking
man,
about.
and tell them the story, man.
Bro, if we're talking about the
same story,
it's
when the guy, his kids were, the custody went to the mother and he couldn't see his kids, and then what did he do?
Yeah, he killed. He shot.
He shot the two daughters and he shot himself.
Yes, he shot the two daughters and he shot
obviously
himself.
that's a condemnable action, a monstrous action. But
Yes.
the point is, it drives men to
Yes.
insanity, bro.
Yes.
When you play around with kids.
Yes.
And this is a serious issue. And once again, it's documented very well in the Red Pill documentary.
Definitely need to be watched.
It's extremely, and people do this today, man.
Yeah.
People are trying to snatch kids away from the father. And this can mentally disturb them to the point of insanity.
It's unbelievable.
And people don't realize how big of an injustice this is.
This is a
It's
massive
massive injustice. And do you know what? This is, women have been given power here. And this is one thing that Warren Farrell mentions in his book, The Myth of Male Power, which is that he mentioned a beautiful example. He says, look, if a woman, especially a second wave feminist woman, right, she goes into an institution and she's a manager of like 5 or 10 people, and then they tell her, look, you're going to be supervising 20 people. She'll see that as an expansion of responsibility. But if she has 3 kids and then she has 2 more, she won't see that as an expansion of responsibility. But the same thing has happened. In fact, the influence that she will have on the kids is going to be more than the influence that she'll have on the employees. The point is, a woman is extremely influential, okay? And yes, there is a conditional there. She'll be more influential if she is a mother. But yeah, the same could be said about their understanding, which is a distorted understanding of the patriarchy. The man is sometimes more authoritative, and yes, he should be, to counterbalance this huge influence and authority that a woman would have. Imagine if there was equality, man. Imagine if a man had to have the same authority as a woman, and that the woman was so much more influential over the kids because she has literally had those kids in her stomach and literally had that connection with them that the man can never, no matter how much he tries, ever have that connection. That needs to be counterbalanced, and Islam has the solution, which is that he has an authority over that woman that she does not have over him.
You know what's, and I think we should end on this note, yeah? Do you know what's really profound? Is that the reason why these authorities give that right to the woman is because they accept that she has bore them and given birth to them. So they say, hold on a second, the mother here is the one that's playing the key role, the responsibility, and carried that child and given birth. They see that and say, you know what? They put that respect on the motherhood.
Right.
And that's why they give that right to the mother, yeah, sometimes to extremes.
Yes.
But do you see how they're coming back to our principle of the Quran?
Yes.
That yes, the mother, how she's with her kids, etc. She has that right Islamically as well. But do you see how it falls back to our paradigm that they are not the same?
Beautiful.
Do you get it?
Absolutely.
They're implementing it in their legal system.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I got one more thing, which is 950. Go.
In her 30s, and she will say things like, "Not tonight, honey," and deny him sexual release and possibly use that as a way to control him.
Bro.
Yeah.
How many views has it got? How many views has it got? One second.
It's got like almost 1 million views.
Almost 1 million views.
Yeah.
11,000 likes. 1.4 thousand dislikes. That's
right.
about 9% of dislikes of the full count. Yeah.
Yeah. This is an issue, bro.
1 second. This is an issue. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah.
If I was to repeat the same thing, I'm gonna put my feet up now.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason behind it.
There's a reason. Yeah.
If I said the same thing and I quoted a hadith, which the Prophet ﷺ said that the angels cursed a woman who, when the husband is asking for intimacy, she says no. So firstly, you can see from the hadith that it doesn't say go grab her by the hair and say come here and I'm going to whatever do to you. Yeah. Because it shows that she has a right to say no, and that the angels curse her.
Absolutely.
This is a fact that this guy is stating. And
Yes.
you know what? In this hadith, it looks like the man is actually
Yes.
sexually blackmailing. It's actually the opposite way around. She's saying no. And I don't want to. Yeah,
bro.
that's manipulation. Now we're not saying there's certain scenarios where a woman can't.
Yeah, no.
We're
But
not
what's
talking
the
about
point
that.
of a relationship?
Exactly.
What's
But
the point of the
what we're saying
relationship?
is this talking about a woman that is actually using her
Yeah.
femininity
Yeah.
against the man.
Yes.
And nobody talks about it, so much so that when you read the hadith, you're reading it with this sounds, oh my gosh, towards a woman. Hold on a second.
Exactly.
Why isn't this hadith seen as, hold on a second, she is actually abusing him?
Yeah,
so much so that the
absolutely.
angels are cursing her.
Yeah. No, do you know, I think that there's an assumption here, which I think second wave feminists, once again, have tried to promulgate, and it's the assumption that both men and women are the same sexually. But look at this. Yeah, look.
Open it, brother.
I'm going to give you one study.
You know what? 1 second.
Yeah.
We're chatting nonsense.
Okay.
What would you say?
This is one study that was from Roy Baumeister. I might be pronouncing their name wrong.
You've been doing that
and
quite
Kathleen Catanese, yeah, and another one, Kathleen D. Voss. And the question is,
That doesn't sound like Muslims. Let's carry
no,
on.
it's definitely not.
Yeah.
Is there a gender difference in strength of sex drive? Yeah, that's the name of the question.
Okay.
Listen to the abstract. The sex drive refers to the strength of sexual motivation. Across many studies and measures, men have been shown to have more frequent and more
Make sure the mic is close.
right and more intense sexual desires than women, as reflected spontaneous thoughts about sex,
You know what? Take the
frequency,
mic. No,
frequency and variety of sexual fantasies, desired frequency of intercourse, desired number of partners, masturbation, and I know some people in this room know a bit about that. I'm only joking. Liking for various sexual practices, willingness to forego sex, initiating versus refusing sex, making sacrifices for sex. No comment.
He's losing his breath. He's losing his breath.
And other measures. Listen to this.
Deep. Breathe.
And for a psychological kind of peer-reviewed study to write the following in such generalized terms is incredible. No contrary findings indicating stronger sexual motivation among women were found. Hence,
Repeat that.
no contrary findings, including indicating stronger sexual motivations among women, were found. Hence,
Mic drop.
Listen. Hence, we conclude that the male sex drive is stronger than the female sex drive. The gender difference in sex drive should not be generalized to other constructs such as sexual orgasmic capacity, enjoyment of sex, or extrinsically motivated
Something
sex.
you've never experienced in your
Look,
life.
I'm so look, here's the point. Let me tell you something, right? The assumption, once again, of identicality falls flat on its face.
Like this mic.
Right.
Sorry.
Any serious scientist or psychologist or social scientist will know that all studies really, and this is indicated in peer-reviewed literature, indicate a difference. So if there's a difference, and the Quran makes this clear, it says, وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانَ ضَعِيفًا. The human being has been created weak. Allah describes this, and the Mufassirun, the exegetes, they say this is referring to sexual weakness. This is a weakness
For men.
It's a yeah.
Prophet said, "There's nothing I fear for my ummah except."
It's much more exacerbated for men.
Yes.
Because once again, going to Farron's definition,
Yeah.
lack of power. You know, the fact that we don't have as much control over sexual desires as women do should be something which, once again, the complementary system
Yes.
should mean that the woman helps us a little bit with this. Because quite frankly, there is an expectation, and he's right, and he says this in other places, there is a societal expectation for men to protect women in other scenarios. Men, if there was some kind of, he was talking about in another video that I watched of his, you know, the plane dropped or something like that in the sea, and women and children were kind of told to exit first. And the women and children rule applies over and over again. Women and children are prioritized in safety matters. The truth of the matter is, if society should operate in those ways, and we don't deny that should be the case, by the way.
100%.
We're happy with that. And we haven't got an issue with
we're
that.
ready.
Yeah. But if such weaknesses of women, quite frankly, are to be kind of dealt with by the strength of men, then at least let the opposite happen. Let the weaknesses of man help us. You know?
Not help us. Look. It's very simple. Yeah,
help us.
Biologically, emotionally, intellectually.
Yes.
You name it, whatever you want to name it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. This shows you that this is a peer review. This is studies showing this.
Yeah.
If a man has a higher sex drive or whatever it is, it shows that we need a unique attention in that area. This
perfect.
does not mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me make it clear. This doesn't
Yes.
mean I'm going to force my wife. No, we're not talking about. We're not talking about rape.
We shouldn't even
What we're
disclaim
saying is
that.
the following.
Yeah.
What we're saying
Yeah.
is, sadly we have to.
Yeah.
Sadly, but we have to.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
The thing is this: if in a certain situation where there's a threat to me and my wife walking down the road,
Yes.
and I have to perform, I'm not going to say go.
Yeah.
I have to because of her strength. It's biological. Because
No,
of
but
her
I think
strength.
she's stronger than I think there's an exception.
If that is the case at that given moment, that I have to perform in that very moment to that threat, it's as good as saying.
So you're a full-time security guard.
Okay, yes, but so that means in a certain
Unpaid.
area, unpaid, sadly, So and I could die on the cause, So the thing is, if it comes to intimacy, and if a husband is asking his wife to come to have intimacy, and she's saying no problem, you have the right to say no. But what you're doing is now you're a hypocrite. You're an absolute walking, talking hypocrite.
Yeah,
that's it.
Because you're happy to
take
you're happy to take protection of men when weaknesses of women are shown. Yeah, look, I totally agree with this point, and I think this is sadly, like you've said, something which is. Do you know what this shows among all above all things?
Yes,
the fact that he said this, and so many people have agreed with him on this, and they're not Muslims, right?
Yeah.
So this is not a Muslim specific issue. Number one, okay, you can't attribute this behavior to Islam. This is a non-Muslim website, YouTube page. Number one. Number two, okay, which I think is very important as well, is that this shows how much resentment there is among men for women who do this to them. Now you can feel although he's trying to be kind of monotone, but you can kind of hear through his content the emotion in what he's trying to say. He's been probably hurt. Many of the people that are going on his website, YouTube page, have been hurt, and that is because, let me tell you the reason why, is because the system has been unjust towards men.
The system has failed,
and also has been unjust towards women, and this system is unjust towards men and women. The answer is reciprocity. The answer is complementarity. And the answer is Islam.
La ilaha illallah. Till next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was a good video, man. I don't know, man.
Peels.
Yeah. Yeah?
I thought you got like a hole in your thing. Okay, bro, come.
Sorry about this, bro.